I know you guys have heard about love at first sight, but have you heard of friendship at first sight? Because with this young lady on the show today, it was that. One of my amazing friends, my adopted little sister Narissa, was getting married, I want to say last year. And Labrie and I walk into this wedding and we look up and we see this cute couple like across the room, just fly as ever, looking so good. And I walk up to this beautiful young lady and I'm like, oh my gosh, your jewelry is amazing. And we just start talking. And then next thing you know, it's months later and she is a leader in the revamp. I'm like crying about her getting married on Friday. Like it just went from like stranger to family in like a second. And if you know about that, then you know this conversation is going to be good because I have that relationship with Miss Holly Rachel Bowers.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Excited to be here. Woo woo.
Amazing. And for those of you that are coming from Holly's community, my name is Amanda Sweet. I am the Creative Fairy Godmother, and every single week we talk to creative entrepreneurs on the Let's Glow show. And one of my missions is to help people get fly, make friends, and save the world through community. And this is for me to get deeper in love with my friends and all of your friends and all of the things. So we're going to talk about everything that's going on in Holly's life, which is a lot. And right before we jumped on the show, we were talking about her current last name because you got married on Friday.
I got married on Friday. Well, I eloped on Friday. I don't know if that different.
You got married, girl.
I got married, but it was small, intimate, and perfect.
I love that for you. Okay, wait. Tell us a story like the quick abridged version of like you and Marcus.
We met, or like what we so Marcus and I met on New Year's Eve, going into 2022. It was honestly like just one of those moments where he had turned around. I was waiting in line for a drink and like the lights had just kind of like shined on him. And then he approached me and we started talking. He asked if he could get my number. I gave him my business card. And then he was like, do I have to call because I had known he was a mortgage lender by that point. And he was like, does it have to be for business or can it be for personal? And I was like, go ahead and call me for personal. Literally the next day we were at a coffee shop for 3 hours and I think I've seen him every day since then. And it's been awesome. He's my person, he's my partner, and he's just somebody I met, falling in love with him the minute I met him, basically.
I love that for you so much. You guys are amazing together. You seem like an amazing team. Like when I say like we fell in love with y'all, like Labrie doesn't do things outside of like work and like the voluntold activities I tell him to do in his art. Like he was going to Marcus's book club. Like, like it was like we both were just like, okay, we're all in. We love you guys. You're the family. You're 5 minutes away. And I'm gonna put your dirty. It's not dirty laundry, but like
all right.
After the first revamp you came to, we drove somewhere. I can't remember where we were driving, and you were like, "This man will not propose. I don't know what's going on." Like
yes.
And then
oh my god, yeah. Sorry. I know. Well, we were driving to drop off donations from the revamp.
Yes.
And at that point, I mean, 3 years felt like a long time. I have a son, not with Marcus. He is, I had him at 19 and he is now like, we're talking about like what he's going to call Marcus. He's been calling Marcus Big. Now he wants to call him Dad. So that's the transition, the period that we're in right now. So when we had, Easton and we've been dating, like, we're dating to get married for the last 3 years. Like marriage felt like a long time away. Like I was just like, babe, come on, propose already. And then he did. And then we kind of like, and now we're married already. And I don't know. It was just like a whirlwind, but it was just awesome. It was, So
it gets better. It gets better. Now you're married. Now like the woman actually starts. Like I feel like there's this big like glow and glamour about engagements and weddings. stuff like that. And, I know you want to do your reception and everything, but like the fun starts like when you're actually married. And the cool thing, I mean, I did an elopement too. I was forced into it because of the pandemic, but like like my little sister Rachel is getting married right now, and she understands it's like all this external pressure and for a big wedding, and you forget why you do it. So I feel like elopements are always cool, and everybody I know that gets engaged, I'm like, y'all should elope first. And then just what you want to do after, because it's about you. It's about you. That focus never changes. But once you go big wedding, it's like about the mom, about the mother-in-law, about the families, and then it's like you're like trying to please everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't. And that's the reality of it. I mean, I've ran weddings. That was my college internship. That's actually how I started to get close to Nursa, is we met at the same internship, but we were in the same sorority too. So she was just always somebody who I was like, I want to be your friend.
Yeah.
So, circling back to where I was talking about crap. I just totally lost my train of thought.
You worked in weddings before.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've just seen the day, behind the scenes, and it's always stressful, and it's beautiful, but you're spending a down payment on a house, for something that everybody else gets to enjoy more than you do, truly. So I just couldn't get behind that mindset. Not saying that people who do isn't for that. It's just not for me, I just didn't. My life is stressful 24/7. So planning like a wedding before I could get married, and like, having to wait, like it was important to us to be married first. So having to wait to have kids until the end of 2026 just like seemed like a lot for us. So we decided to do it totally off the books and pick what we wanted, and it's unique, and people have a lot of questions about it, which is okay because it's not about anybody else. It's just what we wanted to do, and that's what we ended up with, and I don't regret it. And like you said, we'll have our ceremony, or we'll have our like
you won't. But see, okay, I have because we had to cancel our wedding because of the pandemic. I have this like lingering like cloud that follows me, and every time it comes around, like our anniversary or somebody else gets married, I always ask Breezy, I'm like, are we ever gonna do, because we talked about it, like, are we ever gonna do a reception? Are we ever gonna do this? It's not the right time. It's not, and he always reminds me, he's like, but are you happy with our marriage? Like, how are you feeling? Like, he always tries to redirect, because it was a moment in time. What happened was beautiful. How it went down was amazing. It'll be 5 years married this year. And he's always like reminding, like, I'm like, oh yeah, I have to focus on the reason why you do a wedding in the first place is for the marriage. And we have a beautiful marriage, a beautiful friendship. And like the wedding is always like so external. So we're, even this year, we're like, do we do one for a 5-year? But Rachel, my sister, is getting married at the top of the month. I'm like, this is not the year. This is just not the year. And maybe never, but I need to change my mindset around weddings, because there's this external pressure. Like the weddings are supposed to be this. It's supposed to look like that. It's supposed to.
Absolutely. Well, I think that there's like this huge, I wouldn't even say misconception, but everybody has like the wedding of their dreams. And like often that involves like thousands of dollars. And I just don't feel like, I don't know. I don't want to get on a tangent here, but I'm like real big into like not getting into like a capitalistic mindset, like consumerism. I mean, that's why we partner, that's why I love the revamp so much. It's all about sustainability instead of mass production. So I essentially, feel like some weddings are sometimes at like capitalistic pull. I mean, you go to a wedding cake baker and it's like $300 more for a wedding cake, for a small 300. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I couldn't get behind it and feel good about it.
Right. You could go on vacation with this money or whatever. Like,
we put that towards a down payment on a house.
So let's talk about that, because you are a real estate agent. You're getting your brokerage license in a month. Like amazing things. And every time I talk to you, I feel like I learn something new. And I'm like just so impressed about the knowledge that you have about, like, when we talked the other day, I was like, are you excited for your wedding? You're like, yeah, we just did like our living trust. And I'm like, I don't know anything. Like every time I talk to you, I'm like, I know nothing. Like, Holly, teach me. Teach me
Well,
all the things. You have such a wealth of knowledge. Let's start
yeah.
at the beginning. Like, how did you get into real estate?
I got into real estate because of my mom, and I didn't think I was going to. I had okay, well, I guess it's kind of a twofold answer. In high school, my instructor, I was in like a business program and they had actually covered my real estate license. So now they do it as like a routine program in that business class where
Oh,
kids can take their real estate license. But I was one of the first ones to like, it's amazing. I know. Mr. Neal with Oakland Schools Technical Campus, he is just incredible, I know.
wow.
So and by the time I went into college, I had an entire semester done of college credits too. So that was a really great class to take
Yeah.
in high school, and then I had already had my real estate license, like, started. So by the time I got pregnant in my then the first semester of sophomore year, I was like, "Well, I'll try this. It'll be a step getting myself prepared to, take on life," because I had no financial backing at 19 in college. Um,
Right.
yeah, so my parents helped me out with, I moved back in with them, started getting into real estate, passed my exam. I sold my first house in June of 2018. I'd gotten my license just a couple months before that. And then I had Easton, and then I've been selling houses ever since then. And it's started under my mom, and now my mom's passed, and I've taken over the company. And it's just something that I didn't think I was going to get into, but was meant to find.
Wow. There's so many, like, there's so many things I want to dig into there. Like,
Okay.
I want to talk a little bit about being 19, being a mom, and going into a business that is entrepreneurship. I know we
Yeah.
talked to a couple of my friends a couple episodes back, Christy and Raquel, about real
Yeah.
estate entrepreneurship. On the outside looking in, when people think about real estate, they're just like real estate's in its own like bucket. But like I feel, and could be a misconception, but I feel like a lot of people think like, oh, real estate is a job, but they're not thinking like, oh, real estate is entrepreneurship. Like you
Sure.
build your own clientele, you're on your own. Even if you're working in an agency, I don't know if that's the terminology, but like you're an entrepreneur. So I want to dive a little deeper into like being pregnant with Easton at 19, going the real estate route. Like, what was that experience like for you? And like, what did you learn from that?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's been a constant growing and learning experience ever since. When I found out I was pregnant, it was like the world had concaved. I wasn't in a relationship at the time. So it was really like, hey, I went to school, got pregnant with this guy. And at the time, it really felt like my world was like crumbling. And my parents were like heavily Christian background at that point. And just the way that my 19-year-old brain had told them to was not in an ideal format. So, originally I had a whole family picked out to adopt Easton. So that was the plan for 7 of the 9 months I was pregnant with him. Uh,
Wow. Why did you
so
decide for that? And then what made you decide against it?
yeah, um, I
If you don't mind.
decided for that. Yeah, no, it's just, that conversation, having to tell a family that they weren't getting the child that they had prepared for 7 months was the hardest conversation I'd ever done. So just sometimes thinking about I have some guilt, but never in the way that I had chose to be a mom. Yeah, it was, Easton's, gosh, I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared. I didn't have anybody to help me. I mean, my parents were going to be there, but they didn't want to be grandparents in their 40s. Um, so it felt like adoption was the most logical option. Um, you know, for me, I understand and respect there's so many different things in that situation that you can do. And just for me, that felt right. So I was working at a hair salon at the time after I had come home. I was coming home every weekend to like work this job. I don't know why I didn't get a job up there, but I was coming home every weekend to work this job. And I was talking to one of the salon stylists, and she was talking about this client that they had that was looking into adoption, and I was kind of telling her that like I was looking for options, and so she had connected me with this couple, and I just fell in love with them. And, and to just cut the story short, they ended up having twins after. I know, it was so, I sometimes I see their posts on Facebook, and so it was amazing that was, so just to cut that short, it still worked out really good for them. They have a boy and a girl, and I couldn't be happier for them. I know, so it just ended up working out amazing for them too. But yeah, I told my parents I was keeping Easton like in April, and I was due early July. And yeah, end of April, I told them, and my mom was like, I'm not surprised. Like, I knew you were going to keep them. And so that was kind of comforting. Like, I wasn't met with like any kind of like anger or anything.
Sure.
But then trying to figure out next roles and like how to get through court and like have, parenting trials at 19 and just trying to figure out life. It was a whirlwind of emotions that I wouldn't recommend on anybody. Definitely you should be prepared to have a child, but I was like dead set on not stick. There's a lot of single moms, and there's a lot of moms that fall into like poverty and go on welfare, and I just did not want to be that. And so I picked it up. I got as many jobs as I could to where I was still seeing Easton as much. I literally worked a dental office job where they allowed me to bring him in. Like, so I'd be sitting up there at the front doing their medical billing, and Easton would be in the rocker next to me. And it's just like, they were just such amazing people. And so I worked there at that dental office for like 3.5 years until I was like, all right, it literally doesn't make sense financially for me to do this anymore. Because at that point, my real estate was really taken off. But yeah, they were amazing. So it's just God has had like that shining light around my path ever since I've been walking forward. But it's been difficult to get started.
I can't even imagine like being that age. And, when I got pregnant and I was single and all of that stuff, and I've shared my story plenty of times on the show, but like when I got pregnant, I was 21. And even at 21, I was just like, what do you do? And I went a different path. And there's guilt with, I feel like being a mother, there's guilt with every route you don't go. There's so many different ways, and now you're responsible for someone else. And I took a route that was very different than yours, and I feel guilty about it all the time, and I'm like, how do I process this? How do I make this make sense? And now that Libri and I want to have babies, that kind of bubbles up all the time. But I can't imagine actually like going to term and then having a child and doing the beautiful job that you've done. And now you're having these like really important and beautiful conversations with your son. Like, I'm getting married.
Yeah.
This is our partner. Like, this
is
chose. Like, oh,
exactly. And it really was we're getting married, because Easton's been my like ever, getting over that. Okay, well, I have to have that hard conversation with the people who were supposed to adopt him, and then I have to have the conversation with his dad, and then like tell his, the Easton's dad's family, and just like all of those hard conversations were so worth it. Easton is my best friend. He shaped who I've become. He's shaping who I'm becoming. Like, my son, I just couldn't imagine life without him. Like, I know that was the right path for me. And those hard conversations that I thought I was never going to get through at the time, like just became like a bubble in the path, and like, but I knew, I just knew that was right for me. And then luckily things have worked out, but I just haven't stopped. I haven't stopped. I will not fail.
Oh yeah. I love, like, every time I talk to you, it's very clear that you are like, you've learned a lot and you carry your wisdom. Like, oh, I was telling, like, y'all, I was crying before we even started the recording. Like, we were on the phone for 3 minutes. I love you, like, oh, sorry. But like, you wear your wisdom and your knowledge like a badge of honor, and you spread that shit like with everybody you talk to. You're like, you should try this, you should do this. And like, I see you, girl. Like, I see you. Why am I like this? I just like, I'm so proud of you. I'm so honored to know you. Like, and to see the way that you just like, you're like, we're going to tackle this shit. We're going to tackle this shit and we're going to make sure that not only you get what you want, like, I have a huge issue with like people pleasing and like being in a room with you. You're like, nope, we're not going to do that. We're going to make sure that we are taken care of. We're going to, and that's why you're the revamp contract queen,
Yeah.
because I will let like a corporation like run over me because I'm like, please, please like let us do what we do with you, even though we're a fucking powerhouse, so I just like, I know you went through some shit to get where you are today, but where you are is like, it's an honor to be in your presence. And I can't wait to see what happens next. Like for you, like you're on it, and it's so like such a short period of time I've known you. And I'm like, I'm so proud of you. Look at me. I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited for you. And Easton is such a cool kid, and that is such a beautiful reflection of like the work you've been doing, the work that you've been doing with Marcus, like, and what you guys have been doing together, like, just beautiful. All are beautiful. I'm so excited for you.
I'm excited for us. It's, I just, I have this. Well, my mom was a yearner for learning, like a yearning for learning was like her slogan. She would wake up in the mornings and read this probably 1,500 page like book about John Adams, like for fun. Like, learning was ingrained in me, and I have this like just passion to know as much as I can about anything and everything, because I really feel like that's how you, not to dive off into anything.
Dive off. That's
what we system, I just don't want to be
Yes.
stuck in the matrix, like per se, like the matrix is like I don't want to be a part of the system. And I feel like the system is really dictating what we eat, what we learn, what we consume, and trying to be an active part outside of that makes you do a lot of your own research.
Yeah.
And figure out unique ways to go around things and what to learn.
Okay, so we're going to dive off that deep edge real quick, face first, because like we are in a time where we need to.
Yeah.
We've always been in a time where we need to, but now more than ever. And I feel like people are actually have a yearning for learning, but don't know where to go.
Yes.
Like if you are waking up and you're like, I want to learn about financial freedom, or I want to learn, like, I don't know what it is that you like are excited to learn about, but like, what routes should we go? Like, if I'm like at the beginning of my learning journey to become like out of the matrix, talking on the matrix.
Yeah.
Not really. Like we are, but we're not. Okay. But like, what would you suggest?
My first topic of discussion would be around the food system, but I know that that's controversial. And
let's start.
Okay. I ingredient check everything. If I can't read it and pronounce it and know what it is, we don't buy it. And I know that that's a hot topic. I would also like to preface with I spend an exuberant amount of money on groceries. Like that is a majority of what I spend my income on because it makes sense for us to like live with like really healthy food. I'm like a big believer in what you consume is like health food to your body or harmful to your body. And it's like honestly I'm like pretty neurotic about it too. So it's not like
how as someone, and my friends that are here with us on the Glow Show have seen me go through this journey of like getting a nutritionist, learning about, like, I know nothing about nutrition. I could say I know a little bit about nutrition now, but like, where do I start? If I want to start ingredient checking things, and I'm comfortable making things from scratch, but I just, Bree and I had a long talk about it. I'm like, I don't know that many recipes. Like, on the last, I think it was the last episode, maybe I was talking to someone else, but like, I was talking to someone else. I have another friend whose parents are immigrants. So one of her parents is an immigrant. Same with mine. So like my mom's from the Philippines. Yeah. Her mom's family is from Belize. And we talked about this, like survival meals where we were having like either the same meal every day of the week or I was talking to Sam on the show. I was sharing with her last episode. She's a nutritionist, a holistic nutritionist,
Sweet.
and we were talking about, like I was eating chicken and rice every single day for 4 days, and then the special treat was like beef and rice, but like
Okay.
no vegetables. Like, so we're eating this like survival meal because you got 4 kids, you're like you have a family of 8 in one household, you're making as much money as you can, and you make chicken and rice, right?
Mhm.
And so now as an adult, I'm like, I don't know how to feed myself. I have to hire someone to help me because I know nothing about nutrition
Yeah.
and I was eating for survival, but now I don't have to. So like, where do I start? Like,
Oh my God.
if you were going to show me the light.
Okay. I started with HelloFresh. I know as silly as that sounds, but that's how I got into like cooking and ingredient checking is starting with HelloFresh. I
Interesting.
knew when I moved out, I mean, I was probably momming for this point of like a whole year living on my own. It was after my house got redone. So probably like almost 2 years into being a mom, I was like still not knowing how to cook because Easton was breastfed up until pretty much that point. And
Right.
then I was like, it's just getting by with me. I don't eat much. So that's just like I have like weird snacks all day, and that was fine for me. And then Easton started eating, and I was like, I need to start giving my body better nutrition. So I started getting these HelloFresh meals, found out I loved cooking, and was like getting comfortable with making recipes. And then instead of using the recipe cards, I'm like making my own recipes. And then from there, I'm like starting to ingredient check because HelloFresh is pretty fresh ingredients too. So when you go to the store, the ingredients are on the back. And as I'm reading these, I mean, just like a thing of barbecue sauce has like a bunch of processed chemicals in a paragraph. And it's like, this is a chemical that's not going to break down in my body. Like your body is an organic material. You put inorganic materials in it, it's not going to be able to process it well. And that's why people have digestion issues. That's why people have like gut problems. That's why people have circulation problems, like your blood, like all of that ties into the stuff that you're eating. And when you're filling your body with processed chemicals, it can't break it down.
Mm.
So when I started ingredient checking, I really like it's well, to preface it, this has been in the works for like at least 5 years that I've been like actively on my holistic health journey. So it doesn't happen overnight, and I think that we all need to like give ourselves grace going into this because it really is a rabbit hole once you go down it. And it's a lot of information to take in because you're like the food that I've always eaten, that I love, that I've been comfortable with, you're realizing is so not good for your body. And then it's like an entire lifestyle change. And that's why it's taken so long for us to get to the point that we have because it's I had to start growing my own herbs. I had to start, changing what we buy in our grocery list. I was changing my meals and like then we take it a level deeper and then we focus on like, okay, well, if we do like, did you know rice isn't supposed to be consumed more than after that day? Like, it's just a little stuff like that. So it is a learning journey and I'm still learning stuff every day. But I do think that nutrition should be something talked about more because it's almost controversial too.
And it shouldn't be. Like, that should be a class every year of
Yeah.
school, along with finance.
Yeah.
Nutrition and finance should be things that we're learning, but we're not.
Yeah.
Um, I will say, I feel like you should meet Amanda Brazel, Labrie's cousin. I should
Okay.
have Amanda on the show. Amanda is the founder of Finnegan's Farms, and
Oh,
they help people all over Detroit and like beyond build their own urban farms. So they have like a couple farms in Detroit, and
okay.
then they have like co-farms with some people. But like Amanda is like avidly teaching people how to like grow their own food,
That's amazing.
source their material, like make their own recipes. Like I feel like you and Amanda would get along because Amanda could talk about the social, political,
Yes.
and the science behind food with you like all day. Like they
Oh
could
my
wrap it all
gosh.
day. Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
love that. I mean, well, I think I maybe talked about you, but I think that my big rock for like the next 20, 30 years may actually be to go into politics. So
I could see that.
no, I think I hate it. I hate the idea of that because the whole field of politics, it's really a bunch of BS once you
It
dive
is.
into it.
It is a bunch of BS, but we need players on the board
Yeah.
that understand how to navigate through the BS and be like, okay, like I see you, but checkmate. And the thing I like, the reason I can see that is because you are comfortable with like you're in real estate right now. So
Mhm.
you're like doing legal documents, you're doing contracts, you're working with all of these like men
Yep.
who like that's stuff that you do every day.
Yeah.
So, like all of the real estate agents that I know are very smart at reading, understanding, comprehending what is said on the piece of paper, and
Yeah.
then reiterating it in a way that their buyer can understand, right? And like that is gonna equate to the laws that are passed, things that are, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what are the priorities? What are the initiatives? Like, I can see you doing that in a heartbeat.
Well,
I
I do sit on so I'm the youngest director on the largest board of realtors and associates in the state of Michigan. I
say
also sit
that,
on
say that
the
again. What is
yeah,
it?
youngest director on the largest board of real estate agents and associates in Michigan. It's called NACBOR. And so that I sit on and I get to hear, well, I also sit on government affairs too. And that's more where we talk about policies. We talk about laws that are coming to, be on the voting table. We're talking about changes in politicians and what those politicians are rallying for. Like that stuff is really something that everybody needs to be involved in.
Oh
Like,
yes.
but we are in a really good routine of not really caring what happens behind the scenes until we see the headlines of the law that wasn't passed or was passed.
Mhm.
And I think that as a younger generation, like we need to do a better job at that. Like realistically, like if we want these laws to be passed, to be changed, to be seen, like we need to be a part of it because right now we're relying on majority of these white old men to do the laws for us. And I don't feel like that's gonna necessarily be what we want.
No,
So
I mean, it's very clear that it's not what we want, but we are also like blindly trusting that it'll all work out in our favor.
yeah.
And I think to come from the outside in, like, and ask the same questions about nutrition, like, if I'm someone that's been so comfortable, like, looking at like pop culture news, but I really want to transition my priorities to actual like not news, because that's not what I want. I want to understand what are the policies. I want to understand where to go. How do I find this information and also find it trustworthy? So like what suggestion do you have about like how to start tapping in? If I'm at the beginning and I'm like, I know nothing about politics, how do I start like
If you
what's
want to get involved in politics, go to your city hall meetings. Every city will have a city, town, township, whatever you are in, metropolitan area, you can find a city hall meeting. And right there will be your mayor or elected government officials talking about the things that that they're probably not doing in your municipality. And just sitting at those meetings, being active, like, you know, it is ridiculous how few people are in there, first of all. How many people live in each of these cities? There's like 17 people in there at most. And then a majority of these people don't know what they're talking about. They're sitting on the panel expecting no questions to be asked of them, and they don't have any answers for them either. So it's like,
Hmm.
yeah. And then we find out things like they just the city commissioners of Oakland County have all approved to give themselves a pay raise this year. Did you know that? Along with some paid sick holidays, some paid holidays. It's just really interesting. So they approved that for themselves, and we don't know anything about it because people aren't at the city hall meetings.
Right.
And that's not on anybody individually. That's on like our system as a whole. Like we have just gotten
complacent?
yes.
And I
Yes.
think they are hoping that we do nothing.
Yeah.
I think that they're hoping that we continue not to come. You
Mhm.
know, it's funny when we bought our house here in Detroit, I like literally like it was, obviously with the presidential like the president getting into power and all of the things that are happening. And obviously my social, like Liberty's like, what are you watching? My social media is like going down this whole, like, here are the things that we're boycotting. Here are the things that we're not doing. I'm like, great, I can do those things. But like, what else can I do? And I subscribe to all the like City of Detroit, like newsletters. So that was like the first thing I did. I'm like, okay, like what district am I in? What newsletter can I subscribe to? And now I'm getting like all of the updates, which there are a lot of them. But I'm like, if I want to open it, if I see it pop up, just like I see like something from a store pop up, and I just so happen to be like looking at the newsletter, and instead of looking at a sale that I can go to on Friday, I can see, oh, they're doing a town hall meeting.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
they're talking about automating, like, you know, in the city of Detroit. I was like reading a newsletter. I was like, oh, they have like automated cars that'll pick up seniors and take them to get their like groceries. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know that was like a thing that they're talking about. They have classes, they have workshops, they have all of this. They're just like, you know, it's just like any other organization that needs to keep their parties interested. And they're sending out these newsletters and all of these things to do.
Yeah.
I popped into one of the city hall meetings. It was virtual. It was like
Did you? Good.
It was 5 people in that room.
Yeah. Right.
5 people in that room. And I was like, and I'm like looking at this and I'm like making the screen bigger because I was like watching on my lunch break. And I'm like, they're all dudes. And they're all white, except for 2 people. And all dudes is not that much when there's only 5 people in the room. But there was only 5 people in the room. Like,
no, that's how it goes for the people making like laws on abortion and stuff. It's like, what do you know about money? Like, I could.
So I am glad that you jumped up. Like, we're gonna go on all the tangents. You said you want to work on not being going on tangents. This show is about tangents, okay? Like, if there's one theme about the Glow Show, there's 2 themes. There's 2 themes. The theme number 1 is it's a good conversation with someone, and theme number 2 is we go on tangents. Like the whole hour.
Welcome to
But
my
like, I am right there with you, and like let's talk about it. Like when I, you know, he got into power and the swap came up like literally like a week or 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
And now I'm starting to think, and I don't know, I'm gonna say whatever, because like, can I get canceled for like 30 viewers? Like, who cares? So like y'all hear me, the next swap is April 26th. So I'm just gonna say that, come to that if the YouTube gets taken down. It's not. But in my mind, I'm like, we're gonna have 600 people in one room.
Yeah.
And if at the time, TikTok was going down the next day. So TikTok was gonna go down. Meta was doing all its weird stuff. There's all this stuff happening. And I'm like, how do we make sure that we as a community stay together? And so now I'm glad that you brought it up, because now in the back of my mind, this is turning into a revamp meeting. In the back of my mind, I'm like, the revamp is a collection of people who just want to make the world a better place, connect with one another, save some money in their bank account. Yeah. How can we leverage that? And like we talked about this, like it's not outwardly political, but the revamp is like a political activist community. Yeah. We're saying like, hey, don't go to Target. Right. Don't. Because half the people already went to Target and they're already putting the stuff in there. Don't spend money there. Don't waste your money on clothing. Absolutely. You know? And so like in my mind, like I'm just like, how do we and now that I know you want to get into politics.
Yeah. Well, let's take it a step further and talk about don't put it on your credit card. Don't put it on your credit card. Do you know that the CEOs, I was researching this yesterday. The CEOs of these credit card companies, the CEO of American Express makes like, I don't know, $32 million a year or something like that. Same thing with the CEO of Visa. He's like a 30 million or something like that. It's just like obscene amounts of money. And they're making it because majority of Americans are under debt, because there is a capitalistic connotation on everything that we do, that we have to buy and spend and do this and have this and be a part of this trend. And it's like, like we are so trends, like on political, on fashion, on, like movements that we're a part of. It's like everything has to be a part of a trend. And it's just like, everybody needs to take a step back and like think for themselves.
Yeah. That's like wildly good point. We're all mad at all of these billionaires and all of these rich people, but we're the ones that are making them rich, but it is systematic. It is systematic. And so like one of the things that we want to do with the revamp is like the reason it's once a quarter and everybody is always like, girl, you're crazy. You must be tired. You must be this. And I'm like, we will get to a place where the infrastructure makes sense and I'm not tired anymore. But like we, the people, need an outlet to clothe our bodies because we have to be clothed.
Yes.
Right. We are going to find a way to clothe our bodies for $20 is nothing. Like for $20, you're spending $20 on fees on DoorDash.
Seriously.
You're spending $20 on the tip at a restaurant. At like whatever. You can't even put $20 in your tank anymore and it go anywhere. So like not everybody, but the people that don't get it are like, I don't understand what you're doing and you're not like earning any money. And I'm like, yeah, but like, have you ever come?
Right.
And see how many families come and see how many people that we're helping. And it's not about the clothes. Like, yes, it is about the clothes, but like, what could you do with the $400 that you would have spent at wherever store for your one kid?
Exactly.
Well,
maybe this is a total segue and maybe this has turned into a revamp meeting, but maybe we have people to talk about trusts and, like financial planning and we can market it as like hey, save your money. We're giving you cheap clothes. You spend it on this instead because this is going to help you in the long run.
Yes.
That could
and let's talk about that. You said to me the other day, like, yep, me and Marcus got we finished our living trust and me and Labrie are looking over here at each other like,
yeah,
well, we don't know about we don't even understand what a trust is,
Okay.
So like we bought a house, right? We did what we thought we were supposed to do. We're like, you find a partner, where you graduate from school, you find a partner, you get married, you buy a house, right? And we were kind of like doing this is what we're supposed to do. And we're like here in this house, which we love. And now we're in an area that we love, but we're like, what else are we supposed to do? Like, and
Absolutely.
we're looking at our parents and our parents are like, we don't really know, we think we did this. What do you think of that? And our other parents are like, we did this. What do you think of that? And we're like, I don't know if I like either of those things,
Yeah.
Or future financial planning. Where did you learn all of it? Was it through real estate?
That's a good question. I think I honestly learn a lot of it just by the stuff that I'm involved in and like what I want to learn. So like I had known that trusts. So originally I had learned about trusts because if you're like, say my dad has, our childhood home right now. Mm-hmm. I would love to eventually purchase that land from him, but there's no way I'm going to pay the capital gains taxes on it now and purchase it from him as is because I'll have to pay property taxes, transfer taxes, and well, you're going to have to pay property taxes regardless, but transfer taxes and the capital gains on it, either him or I. And capital gains is just another tax from the government saying, hey, you had some revenue. Let me take a portion of that, which is bullshit. It's such. Anyways, so in order to avoid that, you put the property in a living trust. And a living trust protects your assets. I also should preface, I'm not an attorney nor a financial planner, and everybody who wants to look into this should contact their advisor. So we had thought it would be beneficial for us to put that property into a living trust. And when my dad passes, instead of having to go through probate, because regardless of whether you have a will or not, the property still may have to go through probate and all of their belongings. But a living trust protects against that. So you put your property into a living trust. As soon as they pass, it'll automatically get transferred to me, and the government won't see it as a transaction. They'll see it as a hand-me-down, and they will not charge me capital gains taxes on that. So those are the things that started getting me into looking into living trusts. And then in living trusts, I found out that we could also have things of like allowances for our kids. And, when we're millionaires a couple years from now and we have, money for our children to inherit, there'll be stipulations, like, hey, you have to have a at least one form of entrepreneurship income before you have access to this money or something like that. Like you can set stipulations on it and whatnot. And then even getting into things of like, we found out that you can take art, purchase art, have it appraised by, a licensed appraiser, and then donate it to like a museum or like a church. And then whatever it appraised for, regardless of what you purchased it for, you can write that off on your taxes.
Wow. As I'm looking around my house filled with art.
Right. Right.
Oh,
So
see, okay,
there's like
like
lots of things to get rich.
we are going to do that. So this next swaps, just so y'all know, like the last, like if you have not come to the swaps, like they're growing immensely. And
Yeah.
I am removing myself from the day to day. I'm working on that so that we can start activating things like workshops. So the next swap will have workshops. And I do want to have a financial person in a room where you can just walk in and just ask the financial advisor,
Yeah.
because like you said so many things, but there are people that are on this call, including myself, where you're like, you got to talk to your financial advisor. And I'm like, how do you find the right one?
Yeah.
You know,
You can talk to mine.
yeah, so like we're in these conversations and I'm hearing stuff and I feel blessed to be in rooms where I'm hearing more conversations like this,
Mhm.
but I'm still in the elementary phase and I'm sure I'm not alone, where I'm like, I don't even know how to pick a financial advisor. And then when I get one, because we've gone through two that I felt like we just didn't like, it just didn't go the way we were hoping to go. Not that anything bad happened, but we were like, we don't like the communication style. I don't like how these men talk to me. Like, because the only reason why we're in the room is because I was like, Labrie Jones, we need a
Mhm.
financial advisor.
Mhm.
And I schedule the call, I find the person, then we get into this rooms and I am not even there because I'm the woman, right? So like, I'm like, yo, sir, we would not be here if it was not for me. So you better talk to me.
Yeah.
Not that's nothing towards my husband, but it's to these
Absolutely.
men,
Right.
and I'm like, there's a couple in this room. And both of the people in this couple make money and make the
Mhm.
decisions. And,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so I'm at this part where I'm like, I haven't found my financial advisor yet. So we don't even know what direction to go. So like, how would you, even just to start it off, like, how would you pick your financial advisor?
I think personal referrals are always the best, to be
Yeah.
honest. This financial advisor I got in contact with was Marcus's financial advisor prior to me using him. And he was like down to come talk for like a YPN event that I hosted. So he might be, open to come in and talking and giving a little class for the revamp too.
Yeah.
Yeah, his name is Sean Ewavision. I
Okay.
probably butchered his last name, but
All right.
he's awesome. Like, he's just sat down, he's given me goals. He's like, he'll pick up Marcus's phone call all the time. He came over for like just to drink whiskey with us and watch the game with Marcus a couple months ago. Like he's just a really good guy. And I think that you find the people that you vibe with, and those are the people that you need to be using for your referrals. Because if you're not vibing with them, like reality is there's probably somebody who's knowledgeable, knows their shit, and you vibe with too. So like find them.
Exactly. And like it made me think like get the referral from the advisor whose life you are interested in like
Yes.
mimicking. You know what I mean? Like, both of my advisors came from both sides of my parents. And mind you, like Labrie's parents are doing great. My parents are doing great. They did amazing things with their lives, but
Yeah.
they're like my parents and my grandparents' advisors. And
Okay.
like it just was not for me. And also like I like what y'all are doing. I like what y'all are doing, but I don't want to live like this. I
Yeah.
want to do something different. And so like, this is for those of us that are in the elementary phase where we're like, where do I find an advisor? Like if
Mhm.
you're gonna get a referral from someone whose life you admire, So like if you're like, oh, I like what you're doing, I like what your plans are, I like what your goals are, like talk to their advisor. So Holly, I will be talking to your advisor
Yeah, please do.
because I'm like, I want to be financially savvy. And right now, all I'm doing is like, I got our debt down. We
Yeah.
saved enough cash to put cash down on our deposit.
Sweet.
We like have an emergency fund,
Yeah.
but now we're just kind of like,
Let's
okay,
get some investing.
like, what do we do now? And it's been like, we feel like we're walking around in the dark.
Okay.
And I feel like everybody I talk to is like, yeah, us too. We're like, I think
Oh,
I
no.
think you need to get stocks. I think you need to like do this. And I'm like, well, I was talking to Holly yesterday and she said she's got a living trust.
Yeah.
Feels like the first thing I should do with the big asset that we purchased. Like it just, I don't, but
Yeah.
that's the part where it's like, it's the same with the food. It's like the food, the finances, all of those little things. I'm just like, why do I know nothing about?
That's how the top 1% keeps it, honestly. And, like, just to circle back to my, like, you know, just screw politics talk. It's like, they don't teach you this because if they had a bunch of people doing this, they wouldn't make as much money off of us. Like, the goal I don't know, I guess I probably shouldn't say that on a recorded thing, but, like, you got it's not in their best interest to have a bunch of people who know how to take care of themselves, eat right, are fully woke and, can fight
Financially
and actively
stable.
for what they want. What was that?
And financially stable.
Yes. So it makes sense that like a lot of people don't know about this. They don't teach us in schools. They teach us how to be really great employees, and like go like meet the government for stuff. So I I'm passionate about learning all of the financial tricks and tips that I can figure out how to take my, non-generational income family and make it into a generational wealth, you know, established trust.
Yeah.
And I want to be rich. Like there's always somebody in one family that starts like the precipice of like their whole family, name. And that's going to be Marcus and I. And living trusts and investments and really properties. Properties are huge in terms of like just having income regularly. So it's what we're building and we're actively working on it.
I see it. I adore it. I love it. And I love to be around it because I feel like that was one of the pieces. It's funny because one of the things that I felt like I needed to do was change my environments to be surrounded by people that I like can learn from and look up to.
Yeah.
And like hearing you talk like that is really important to me because then I can turn around and be like, so this is what Holly and I talked about today to my husband at dinner, and it's like you have the option of two conversations. When you go home to your partner, you go home to the person that you're building with, whether it be yourself or your family or your partner. What are the conversations that you're going to recap? Because Breezy's always like, so tell me about your day. And I feel like, oh, well, so-and-so was having drama with so-and-so,
Absolutely.
right? Like I can go home. I've had those conversations with him, taking somebody else's drama home with me because we're drama free, we're debt free, drama free, right? So I will go home and be like, oh, no, no, no. Or I can surround myself with smart people that are doing things that I don't understand and be like, so Holly and I talked about living trusts today. And what do you think about that? And maybe we should talk to her financial advisor. And so my suggestion to those of you that are feeling like you're in the same boat as me, where I'm like, I know nothing, you should start with subscribing to your city's newsletter.
Yeah.
Like
I know who your senators are, who your state representatives are. Subscribe to their newsletters, and that's going to give you hey, this is what bill I've proposed. This is what bill I've rejected. And so you can at least start to understand like what's at least coming up in politics.
And like, how do they communicate?
Yeah.
What time are their meetings? Like, you might not be able to go to the meetings right now, but you can like, for the next quarter, you can start scheduling. Oh, like I have 10 to 11 a.m. blocked off on Tuesdays because that's when they do the town hall meetings, which nobody's available at that time because everybody's at work, right? Like, but they're at work too. So like, I know, you know what I mean? So those are some of those things where it's like putting yourselves in those surroundings. I'm just like, I'm always so impressed by you, Holly. Like, I'm just
Thanks, dude.
Like, and we didn't even get to talk about your fashion. And
I know. I got my whole closet behind me too.
Like that, usually when you can see like a style sister from a mile away, like, hey, I see you. Like that.
I know you know what to do.
Which store did you get that from? Like, like even down to that, like we could talk about that for another hour. I'm sure. But I'm glad that we talked about the things we did because we just are not talking about them enough. We're not talking about finances enough. We're not talking about, like, especially as entrepreneurs. I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes as entrepreneurs, we're so like, oh, I gotta, like, I'm down in the work, my head's down, but like, we got to remember why we're doing this in the first place. Like, I love that you said, like, we want to be rich. We
Yeah.
want to be rich and we want to have generational wealth,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I think there's a lot of people in entrepreneurship that are like, I'm doing it for the love. I just like want to help people,
Yeah.
but also like, I want to be stable.
Yeah.
I want to be stable. I want to be comfortable. I want to be able to do whatever I want.
I mean,
without
you
having to-
probably wouldn't be putting in all of the work if you weren't trying to make an empire. Like, you know, so and just to recap real quick, when I say like out of the matrix, it's out of that mindset. It's out of that going home to talk about drama that happened in your day today. It's going home and instead of thinking about like, you know, how am I gonna budget better this week? It's thinking about like, oh crap, like I don't have the closet that I want to wear this week and I need to probably just go out and buy something else. And so it's like it's just a mindset shift of like you focus on what you find. And if you're focused on building wealth and pouring into yourself and creating a peace within your environment and focusing on you, like it comes to you.
Yep.
We are magnets.
We are magnets. We are money magnets,
Hell yeah.
happiness magnets, joy magnets, magic magnets,
Community magnets.
community magnets, like learning magnets. Like I feel all of that on so many levels. I'm just excited to keep the conversation going because like thanks to you, like I'm thinking about the revamp in a way that I'm like, oh, this can be mutually beneficial. As silly as that sounds. Like, but it's silly, but it's also like I'm not the only one that thinks this way. Like as a woman and also a woman who like is a minority, like, and my family has its own trauma that it's coming from. Like, I feel like I've been taught to just kind of like bend at the whim of the bigger guy. And I'm just like, but we are the bigger guy. Like, you know, and I got to shift the mindset of like, we are the bigger guy and we get to break that generational curse where we can make this mutually beneficial and not exclusively beneficial, right? Like,
exactly.
You know, so thanks to you, we're going to be like, okay, great. We love it. We can't wait to work with you. Let's look at that contract. Let's look at that contract.
Hell yeah.
Items on that contract that we're like, we don't like that. And can you change the language more? I'm like, thank goodness, because yeah. And I said this at the last like revamp team meeting, and I want to say it like on air, like I cannot do this alone. And if one of my personal missions is to change the world through community, like I have to ask for help and I have to lean into the community and the people that are smarter than me at things that I don't know how to do. And so I'm like, please, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yep. You give them the platform, Amanda, they'll come. You're building it.
We're building it. This is like, you know, and for those of you that are watching, like and I'm going to say this like a million times, like if there's something that you want to do that you feel particularly good at and you don't have an outlet, like we have a seat for you, you know, and the seat is open and ready and needs to be warmed. Like, come on. But yeah, like I want to teach people that they can take up a lane in the highway that we're building, and we get to build it. Like we can build it right now. We are building it right now. So I don't know.
Fired up.
I love it. Okay, before we go, I know we're still on the show. Every time I talk to you, I'm like, what do we get? What do we learn? Before we go, 2 quick questions is one, where can people find you, follow you, talk to you, ask you for real estate advice, talk to your financial advisor, all of the things?
Yeah, I don't mean to be like old school, but honestly, the best way to get in contact with me is just to call me. My phone number, 248-892-4311. But I'm also on Instagram at HallaFern. Holla Fern is how you say it, in case you wanted to know why I chose that. And then I'm on Facebook too, but I don't go on it a whole lot. So Instagram or call or text is really the best way to reach out to me. And I'm always willing to help. Like, my consultations are free and my consultations are impactful. So if you need some guidance on a situation you going through or direction and, housing steps forward, I'm happy to help.
Yay. I love it. If you're comfortable with it, we will put your number down below. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So the number's down below. That number. I love it. Okay, so before we go, what's your last piece of advice? Like, what do you want to leave the people with?
I would like to leave people with, you focus on what you find. And I think that is just been huge for me this year. And I've had to choose to shape my mindset to focus on something different in order to remain positive, calm, and peaceful. But it's helping, and it's been so worth it.
I love it. And I love you.
I love you. I love you so much.
Beautiful. Oh, like, and I'm going to say this again. I say this every week. Like, hit these people up. They're real people that live in Metro Detroit that you can literally go grab. I was going to say go touch, but like, don't touch people.
I'll do a handshake.
Yeah, give a handshake. Grab a coffee with. Like Holly is real.
Yeah.
And, like,
in Royal Oak.
Use her. Don't abuse her, but use her.
Mm-hmm.
Work with her, and all of the people that come on the Let's Glow show. They are ready, willing, and happy to have a chat with you. And we are actively moving our community towards more knowledge and more accessible resources. And that's one of the reasons why we do this show, because like, I don't know shit about real estate, but Holly does.
Mm-hmm.
I call her. You can have a coffee with her just like you can get coffee with me. So make sure you do that. And for those of you that are interested in the revamp, we're looking for brand ambassadors. So the brand ambassador application is open and live right now. They close on March 1st, and our content shoot is on March 15th. And we have some pretty fun things coming your way. So click that link below if you want to join the community, and we'll be out playing, making friends, getting fly, and saving the world through community. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching me cry about how much I love Holly. Like, I'm gonna go do that for the rest of the day.
Dude.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This has been so fun.
So good. We'll do a part 2 when you have your brokerage license.
Sweet.
We'll see where the tangents take us, because we could probably talk about anything. But once you have your license and you're like getting ready for your political career, we'll get you back on.
Awesome.
I love you. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, all of our amazing humans watching. Like, I appreciate you. We love you. Thank you for joining us. If you have any suggestions, if you want to nominate anybody to be on the show, let us know. Otherwise, we will see you next week with another Let's Glow show where we chat with creative entrepreneurs changing the world. We love you. See you next week. Bye.